just before the class. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisheshai Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarini Jayo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So yesterday we saw until the Chaturshloki, right? So 10th chapter we are discussing the 10th chapter, so wherein we saw until the Chaturshloki. So Mataji, if at all you find any disturbance, then let flag it out. Yeah. So because I may not know, but if there is any disturbances, just let me know. So because there were some beeps, so I could understand that there is disconnect. But yes.
Yeah,
So
sure,
yesterday,
Prabhu. I
yeah,
will let
thank
you know.
you. So yesterday we in the 10th chapter, right? So we went through the different sections, right? So wherein we saw Krishna's position, and then basically most of the time we spend the Krishna's position and the Chaturshloki, right? So 10.8 to 10.11 were Chaturshloki, right? And so it is good to by heart those four shlokas. Yeah? So because in first two shlokas, the Lord actually tells about the devotional service, and then one who takes up the devotional service, right? So how does he act? And the other two is nothing but the reciprocation. Yeah. So these four slokas we'll have to by heart. Yeah. So the Lord gives the special mercy, right? So in the 11 and 10 and 11, the Lord says that He gives the special mercy. Okay. So to the devotees who need help or support, right? So like who are doing the sadhana but who want to actually move ahead, right? For them, the Lord gives the buddhi. Yeah. And then today we'll see this section 10.12 onwards. Okay. So now Arjuna, after hearing the Chaturshloki, right, so from the Lord, uh, so and so now he actually confirms so Krishna's position. Yeah, she accepts Krishna's position and requests more of his opulences. Yeah, so until hearing, right, so he was listening, right. So in second chapter itself, he actually said that so to the Lord that the Lord should accept him as a disciple and then clear his confusion, right? So from therein, the Lord and he have interaction, and there were many question and answers which went in. Yeah. So, but now, right, say in this 12th and 13th shloka, right, say Arjuna actually retreats, yeah, saying that say Lord Krishna is the supreme. Yeah. So with this, he declares that he doesn't have any doubt. Okay. And even he gives the evidences also why he's saying so. Yeah. So we'll look at the shloka. Okay. So this is 12 and 13. Yeah. So Arjuna Vacha. Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Saswatam Divyam Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum अहस्त्वां ऋषया सर्वे देवर्षिर् नारदस्तथा असितो देवलो व्यासः स्वयं चैव ब्रवीषि मे. Yeah. So here Arjuna says that You are the supreme personality of Godhead, right? Param Brahma, uh, and Param Dhama, right? So your abode is the supreme, yeah, and Pavitram Paramam, so pure and supreme. Bhavan, you, Purusham, personality, Shashvatam. So is it eternal, yeah, and Divyam, transcendental, Adideva, the original Lord, yeah, or say the primeval Lord, yeah, and Ajam, unborn, Vibhum, greatest, Ahu, say, Tvam, of you, right? And say he says that he actually has given some 8 or 9 things, right? So, and post that he's saying that not only that, Ahistvam Rishaya Sarva. So this is not something I am telling. So this is being spoken by Narada, Asito, Devalo, Vyasa, right? So they all have confirmed that you are the supreme personality of Godhead. So Arjuna said, you are the supreme personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you. And now you yourself are declaring it to me. So because when the Lord spoke, right, he has heard all these things, and now he says that you are declaring from me. And then so Arjuna actually spoke all these things, right? So he spoke Param Brahma, Paramdhama, Pavitram, and all these things. And then he says that this is not something, and the purport, Prabhupada says that this is not something which Arjuna has spoken to Krishna as a friend or yeah, as a relative. But he says that this is from the Shastric evidences, yeah, wherein all these great sages have endorsed Lord Krishna to be the supreme. So with this, Arjuna declares Lord Krishna as the supreme because by hearing all these things, right, he's fully clear. He doesn't have a tinge of doubt. Okay, and rest of the Bhagavad Gita sections which we'll see, right, it will be more for clarifying doubts for us. Okay, so for the coming generations, right, for them, say Arjuna would be asking all these questions so that Bhagavad Gita is brought to us and then we actually read through it. Yeah. So even in the 11th chapter, so the Vishwarup, yeah, and so all other stuff, right? So whatever it is, so we'll it is more for us. Okay. So Arjuna asks all those queries on behalf of us. We will see through that also. Okay. So how did how Arjuna accepted Bhagavad Gita is so this is what, right? So all these things we went through, right? So ultimate about purest of purest, yeah, eternal, divyam. So all these are from that shloka only. Okay. What else we can cover? If neither demigods or demons can understand your personality, yeah. So you yourself are declaring it to be I totally accept as truth. So he's saying that I accept whatever is being sent, and then you are the supreme. Yeah. So and then he glorifies in the next couple of shlokas. Right. He says that, "O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the gods nor demons, O Lord, know the personality. So no one knows him. So Krishna's potencies and inconceivable powers, right? So neither the lords yesterday we saw, right? So wherein neither the devatas nor the demons uh, nor us, anyone, so no one can know his opulences, yeah, because they are unlimited, and then it's not possible for us to actually cover all those things, yeah. And the things which are in spiritual, right? So whatever is happening in the spiritual world, right? So we cannot visualize, because so our vision is material, and then our senses are also imperfect senses. Yeah. So whatever senses we have got, they're not perfect. So we can't actually think of what is happening in the spiritual world. Yeah. So the acceptance of Arjuna of all that Krishna says should be emulated, that we can understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita, and the only way we can understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is from the purport. Yeah. So now he further goes, right. He says that no one can know you, right. So you alone know yourself by your own internal potency. Yeah? So for others, it's not possible. Yesterday we saw even like the devatas, like Indra and Brahma, right? Say they themselves do not know, say, about the Lord fully, right? So, oh, Supreme Person, origin of all, right? Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. So here, so Prabhupada actually writes a very good purport here. Yeah. So if you look, right, so in this purport, right, Prabhupada says that sometimes the impersonalists accept Krishna as Bhagwan, right, or they accept him as an authority. Yet many liberated persons cannot understand Krishna as Purushottama, or so they cannot understand him as a person, right? So therefore, Arjuna addresses him as a Purushottama. So here he's saying that Lord has got the personal form. He's personal, yeah, Purushottama. And yet one still may not understand that Krishna is the father of all living entities. Yeah. So therefore, Arjuna addresses him as Bhuta Bhavana. Yeah. So in this verse, if you see, right, so the Arjuna has addressed him as Bhuta Bhavana. Yeah. And if one comes to know him as the father of all living entities, still one may not know him as the supreme controller. Yeah? Therefore, he is addressed here as Bhuteshu, the supreme controller of everyone. And even if one knows Krishna as the supreme controller of all living entities, still one may not know that he is the origin of all demigods. That's the reason he is called Deva Deva. Right? So And even if one knows him as worshipable God of all devatas, one may not know him as the supreme proprietor. Hence, he is known as Jagatpati. So, beautiful purport. So, which the Prabhupada has written for this. You all can go through. Yeah. So, everything, right? He has actually decoded what is Purushottama, what is Bhuta, Bhavana, Bhuteshu, Deva Deva, and Jagatpati. Yeah. So, and then next, Arjuna says that, please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. Okay. So, he is asking to share the divine opulences of the Lord by which you pervade all these worlds, yeah? So all these universes. So, how is how do you pervade? Yeah. And then in the next sloka, right, the Lord will say that he'll only share couple of in the coming verses, right? He'll say that he'll only share couple of opulences, not all, because his opulences are unlimited. Further, Arjuna asks, how should I meditate on you? In what various forms are you able to be contemplated? Oh, blessed Lord. So he's asking, Keshu Keshu cha bhaveshu. So how do I actually meditate on you? Say, because our vision is material, right? So in this context, Arjuna is asking, how can I, being in this material world, right, can meditate on your various forms? Okay. So, and then he is saying, "Tell me again in detail, O Janardana, of your mighty potencies and glories, for I never tire of hearing your ambrosial words." Yeah. So he's saying that, tell me. So he wants to hear from Lord Krishna's mouth itself. Yeah. So herein, right? So if you see in these two slokas, right? So basically, Arjuna is asking what all representations are there in this material world by seeing which you can remember the Lord, right? So what are all the opulences? So we'll go through them. So from verse 19 onwards, it goes on. Yeah, and he says that. In the tell me again in detail. Yeah, she wants to hear from the Lord because the pure devotees, right? As we saw in 10.10, right? So wherein the devotees relish Krishna Gatha, right? And they want to hear about the opulences of the Lord or the glories of the Lord. So he wants to hear, and he wants. So and then at the last he says Amritam. So he wants to hear the nectar. Yeah. So for him, the words spoken by the Lord, and then all these things are like nectar, and then he wants to relish it more and more time. So he says that the more you tell us, the more I would like to hear, and then he's eager to learn that. Yeah. So yeah, the Arjuna requests to hear more about Krishna's glories. Okay, so he says he wants to hear more. Please describe in detail the mystic powers of your opulences. I am never satiated in hearing about you. So he says that there is no saturation. Yeah. So what the more you speak, he is more happy to listen. Yeah. So and these all things, right? So whatever the nectar of conversations or the glorification or the opulences are discussed, right? So for these devotees, right? It's like nectar. Yeah. And then so they would like to hear more. And if you look in, right, so the Puranas also, right? So which we have in so like Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita and all those things, right? These are all when 5,000 old year books, right? Still we relish. Yeah. And then there are copies being printed every now and then they are sold out, right? So you'll never get bored. So even looking at the pastimes of Lord Krishna, right, or hearing, and so you may have heard the same story, but again you'll be listening, so you'll not get bored, right? So whatsoever times you hear about the glories of the Lord, right, or reading Bhagavad Gita, right, so you never get bored. So every time you read, you get a new realization, and then so you go into deeper subject. Yeah. So it's not that once you have read, right? Okay, so this is done. No, so you'll be keep on reading. So that is the difference between the Shastric and the mundane. Say, if we think of the mundane studies, right? So wherein say, we have newspapers, right? So newspaper, how many times can you read? So most of them might read once. That too, the things which interest them, right? Mostly headlines or something, and then the paper is never being read once more, unless there is something which is important, yeah, so which is pressing. But these books are not like that. Yeah. So yeah, and, even I think here also it's been mentioned. Yeah. Such topics are ever fresh, unlike modern histories and stories. Yeah. So that is these talks and the words which are spoken from the Lord are ever fresh. Yeah. And advantages of hearing Krishna's opulences. So hearing increases remembrance. Okay. So the more we hear about the Krishna's opulences, so the more we remember and always think of Krishna. So thus by remembering Krishna, one can relish great nectar. One is never satiated by hearing Krishna. Okay, and then this is a text which is being highlighted from Srimad Bhagavatam, so wherein Shaunaka Rishi, there's a conversation between Shaunaka Rishi and Suta Goswami. Yeah. So, wherein the same thing, right? Say the hearing process of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord is stressed. Yeah. So that, if you want, then you can read through that purports. Yeah. So why Arjuna wanted to hear about uh, the all-pervading opulence of Krishna? It is for the sake of common people, for sake of a materialist, for person's absorption. Arjuna wants to know, how shall I constantly think of you? Wants to hear more and more taste the nectar of his words. Yeah. So all these things we just covered in. Yeah. So now the Lord will start describing his prominent opulences. Yeah. So these opulences are nothing but the representation of Lord. Okay. It is not the Lord himself, but the representation. Yeah. So we'll see. Say he'll say that among the Rudras he is Shiva, right? Among the Adityas or the luminaries he is the sun god. So the prime ones, right? So he says that the prime representation is Lord Krishna. Okay. So every time we see, right? So these things, then we can remember Krishna. So that is how we can get connected. Okay. So we'll go through them. The now the Lord says, "Oh, the blessed Lord said, yes, I will tell you my splendorous manifestation, but only of those which are prominent. Yeah, because if he tells all of them, also we can't understand. Also, yeah. So first one he says that I am the super soul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of beings. So he says that he is the super soul, right? So even we know that the creation, right? So the creation is done by the three Vishnus, right? Karnodeksha Vishnu, right? And then Garbhodeksha Vishnu, right? And Shriyodeksha Vishnu. And as Shriyodeksha Vishnu, he is living as Paramatma in all the living beings, right? Similarly, so in Karnodeksha Vishnu, right? So he is as he's acting as the super soul. Yeah? So everywhere his presence is there. Yeah? And then he is the super soul and he is the beginning, the middle, and end, right? So everything is on his desire itself. Yeah. And he says that of Adityas I am Vishnu, of lights I am radiant sun, of Maruts I am Archi, and among stars I am moon. So he says the prominent ones, right? So among stars he says that I am moon, and then many of them have a confusion, right? Whether moon is a star or not, right? You see, Shastra says it's a star. Okay. And of the Vedas, I am Samaveda. Of the demigods, I am Indra, because Indra is the king of the heaven. Yeah? And of the senses, I am mind, because of all the senses, a mind has the higher precedence. Yeah. And it is the living. And in living beings, I am the living force or the consciousness. Yeah. And even he'll say among the sages also, right? So of Rudra's Lord Shiva, right? And his Kuvera, and of the Vasu I'm fire, Agni, yeah? And then mountains I'm Miru, okay? And of the priest, right? He's Brihaspati, because Brihaspati is the priest of Lord Indra, and Lord Indra happens to be the chief of the Devatas, right? So that's the reason the priest of Lord Indra is Brihaspati. And of all the generals, I am Kartikya. Yeah? So Kartikya is the general of the Of all the generals, he is the leader. So that's the reason it is his representation. Yeah. And of all the bodies of water, I am the ocean. Yeah. Say, like, the water bodies are there, right? So among them, say, ocean is biggest, right? So this is all the representation wherein if we see in daily, right? So we should actually understand that this is Krishna's potencies, yeah, and we should be able to think of Krishna. So it will be easy for us to remember Krishna regularly if we see all these things, right? Whenever we see in our material eyes, which we visualize, right? So the moment we see these all things, we should actually think of Krishna. Of horses, of horses known me to be Uchash, Uchashrava produced during the churning of nectar, right? So the ocean of churning of ocean was done, right? So out of the two animals came. One was an horse, one was an Airavata, okay, an elephant. So he's saying that of the weapons he is the thunderbolt, and of the cows he is the Surabhi, because Krishna in the Goloka, right? He has Surabhi cows, yeah. So and of the serpents he is Vasuki, yeah. And again he'll say of Nagas, you see. So there he said that of the snakes he is, you see here. So he says that of the serpents I am Vasuki, yeah. Of Nagas I am Anantashesh. So the difference between the snake and Naga is that the Nagas will have many hoods. Okay. So, and then of the demigods of the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna, because Varuna is Varuna Devata is also present in the aquatics. So he's one of the aquatics. Yeah. So and then here, right, of the Daityas, right, he's Prahalad. So this we know, right? So So the children of Diti and Aditi, right? So the children of Aditi are called as Adityas, and so who are nothing but the Devatas, yeah. And the other side, right? See, the offsprings of Diti are known as Daityas, yeah, or the demons. So they are divine and these are demonic, right? Out of which Hiranyakashipu was there, one of them, one of the sons of Aditi. Diti was Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu's son was Prahalad. But among them, so he was a great devotee, right? So and then among the beasts, he says he is the lion, and among the birds, he says he is the Garuda. Yeah, I think these all things move on. Of all the creations, I am the end, I am the beginning. Okay, and then he'll say of the letters, say in Sanskrit, right? So the first letter A. So he says that he is the one. Yeah. And among the compounded words, right? Say like I think Prabhupada gives the example of Ram Krishna Rama or Rama Balram, right? So that is also yeah, his representation. Yeah. And then of all time, right? So he says that death, right? And among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, and steady fastness and patience. So, if we have these qualities, right? So, any of them, right? So, if you have any one quality, right? So, you are actually considered as wise, yeah, or you'll have it's a lot of fame and all, right? So, anything, right? So, fortune or fine speech also, or memory, intelligence, patience, and all these things, right? So these are all qualities. Yeah. Okay. Of all the mantras, he says that his Gayatri. Yeah. And of all the months, right, he says Margasira, right? So which is the best season, right? November to December, so where we have everything and ample grains and all vegetables and all we get in plenty. And then of gambling of cheats, I am. So he says that I am the splendor, right? So the reason he says that if we cheat Krishna, right, he is the uh, greatest of the gamblers. Yeah. So here actually we can think of the episode of Karna, right? So Karna actually cheated the Pandavas in many ways. Yeah. So like so he was the one who instigate Duryodhana for all the wrongdoings. Yeah. So though Duryodhana was also doing, but majority of the ideas, right, used to come from Karna only. Okay. So that Draupadi's episode, or say exhaling them from the to the forest, yeah, and then not giving him them any piece of land, right? So I think all these things, right? He basically cheated, yeah, and then so he got killed also, right? So during that time, so I think Lord Krishna actually tells him, so yeah, saying that so you're saying of unethical things, but so what did you do all your life? Yeah. So we can't cheat the Lord. Yes, if we cheat Lord, then my Lord is master of cheaters. Yeah. And of Vrishnis, I am Vasudeva, and of Pandavas, I am Arjuna. So best of the Pandavas is Arjuna. So he says that. Of sages, I am Vyasadeva, right? So who has given us this literature in Kali Yuga, right? And among all men of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment. Yeah. And then he says that he is Yama also, right? Yeah. Here he says, "O conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestation. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences." So he says that there are a lot of opulences which I have got, but I have just spoken only a couple of them. Yeah. So here the whole list is there. Okay. So he is among Adityas is Vishnu. Yeah. Among light, he is sun. Among stars, he is moon. Among Vedas, he is Samaveda. Yeah. So among the god, he is Indra. Yeah. So all these things we went in, right? Among the perfected beings or the Siddhas, right? Is Kapila. So I think this we didn't cover. Yeah. And there are a lot of things. Yeah. So all these things, right? Purport by purport. Prabhupada has written one or two liners, yeah, not two liners. I think for few he has written some small descriptions also, right? So why Brihaspati is called the chief, yeah, and then why of the Vedas, why Samaveda is important. So he goes there, and then why Indra, right? Because he is the lord of, or is the chief of the devotees, yeah, and similarly, of the elephants, right? He says that he's Airavata, yeah. And yeah, of of the immovable things, right? So he says here's the Himalaya, yeah. And all these things you can find in. So it's just a read through. It will not take much of your time. So if you read the purports, right, and if you read the sloka and purport, right, so it will not take much time. You can read through so that you'll actually understand more, right? So whenever we look these opulences, right, in the material world, right? So we can actually appreciate that this is Lord's creation, and then this is his opulence. Yeah. And then we can connect to these opulences as these are the representation of the Lord. Yeah. So yeah, here, okay. So here we have got this. So why does Krishna compare himself to Samaveda, right? The mantras of Samaveda are chanted musically, so they are especially pleasing to the gods more than the mantras of the other Vedas, which is why Krishna compares himself to Samaveda. Okay. So they are chanted musically and they are especially pleasing to the gods more than the mantras of the Vedas. Okay. So compared to other Vedas, right, this is very pleasing because this is more chanted musically. So that's the reason it's Samaveda. Yeah? And Sama denotes that which brings equipoise or tranquility to the mind. Okay. The Samaveda is rich of beautiful songs played by various devatas. One of the songs is Brat Sama. Okay. So which has an exquisite melody and is sung at midnight. Okay. And these all things we just covered, right? Yeah. And then here of the trees, right, he's considered as the banyan tree, right? So because of its size, yeah, and even the worship which is being done, right? And so in the Gandharva planet, right? So of the singers is called Chitrata. Yeah, yeah. And then here one thing to remember is the Kapila which is being spoken here, right? So he is the son of Devahuti. Yeah? So there are two Kapilas. One is the Mayavadi Kapila. So we should not get confused. Yeah. So wherever so even for the same thing, right? Srila Prabhupada has written a book called Kapila, the son of Devahuti. Yeah. So he is the one who gave Sankhya. Okay, and then he is incarnation of the Lord. Okay. So if you want to know more details about Kapila, right? So you'll have to read through Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3. Okay. Yeah, I think these all things we went through, right? So yeah, so if you look in, right, so why Gayatri is called mantra is actually the best of the mantras, right? He mentions it. So mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam is regulated poetry chanting by the qualified brahmanas is the most prominent as it is especially meant for God realization. So that's the reason Gayatri mantra is special and it represents the Lord. This mantra is meant for spiritual advanced people. Yeah? So who on chanting it can enter the transcendental position of the Lord. Okay. So this mantra is the sound incarnation of Brahman, its initiator passed down from him in disciplic succession. Very important mantra in the Vedic civilization. Yeah. So again we have a chart. Yeah. So even Diti and Aditi, right? So if you see, right? So I just explained, right? So the sons of Aditi are called Adityas, are called Daityas. All Adityas are devotees of the Lord, and these are atheists. Okay, Daityas. So, but of them, right? So Prahlad is being represented because he is the pure devotee of the Lord. Yeah, and of the time he is the death. Uh, and yeah, we'll see. And among Munis, he is Vyasa because he gave this Vedic literature, right, to common people in the age of Kali. Yeah. So whatever we are covered, right, punishing the miscreants. Yeah. And what else is there? Yeah, this we discussed. Yeah, so this is why this November to December people are happy. So that is also been discussed. Yeah. So among weapons, cows, aquatic, shark. Yeah, among fishes is shark. Yeah, compound. Yeah, this is all same again. The whole list. Yeah. So this is okay among demigods, right? So among the devatas, right? So these are the different categories. Yeah, this is categorized with devatas, yeah, of sages, yeah, and demigods. Yeah. So there are two categories of devatas: the philosophical truths, right? Poetry of Gayatri. So all whatever we saw, right? So these are again actually collated into say sections. So where in animals, he is for the birds, he is Garuda and all those things. So animal list might be a longer one, but the ones which have been discussed, yeah, of serpents is Vasuki and then Nagas, yeah, there are many wooded and punishment, thunderbolt, yeah, weapons uses, qualities. So this is of humans and kings, Dhananjaya, yeah, and then the kings. So in the past, right? So the kings were the representation of the Lord, but now it's not, right? So like Maharaj Parikshit or Yudhishthir Maharaj or Lord Ramchandra, all those were Raj Rishi kings, right? So it's not relevant to Kali Yuga, okay? And don't get confused while reading that purport. And Vedic mantras, right? So Om, yeah. So yeah. Now, furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existence. This is there is no being moving or unmoving that can exist without me. So here he says that everything is under control, right? So we saw in previous chapters, right? In previous chapter 7, also we saw, right? Everything, both spiritual and material worlds are his creation, and even it's being said that not a blade of grass moves, right, without the sanction of the Lord. Yeah. So we know, right? So we actually touch base the three doers also, right? So Jiva, Prakriti, right, and Paramatma. This 10.40 is, O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestation. So here the Lord ends saying that so there is no end to my divine or yeah, deva, a deva manifestation, opulences. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. So whatever he has spoken, right? So this is his opulences. Yeah. So here he says that know that all beautiful glories and my IT creations spring from but as sparks of my splendor. So whatever beautiful creations are there, right? So those are all nothing but a small spark of the Lord. Yeah. So even the spiritual world or the universes which are created, right? So the Lord doesn't take much of effort to create them. It is only a single spark of his. So only a small um, part of or the energy can actually create those many splendors. Yeah? And then so we cannot actually think of it or we can't visualize it. So even the material creation or the the whole creation of the spiritual world or the universes, right? So it's all a single fragment of his energy. Okay. So even in the next sloka also he says that so we went through all those things, right? So like how the universes were created and then So in one Brahmanda, we saw that, and whatever is being discussed, right? So these opulences are all present in one universe, right? So similarly, there are many multi-universes which are there in the creation, and the material creation is only one fourth of it. So the material universe is only one fourth of it, and three-fourth is spiritual, to which we do not have access, nor we know about what is happening there. So whatever we get the information from Shastras only. Yeah. So scientists and all cannot give us about the rest of the three-fourth portion of the spiritual world. Yeah. So all those creations, right? So in material world itself, we see so many beautiful things, and then what to talk about the spiritual world, yeah. So which is three-fourth, and then which is much more above so our universe, and then our expectations. Yeah. So we can't foresee that. So he says that everything is created by a small fraction of his energy. Yeah. And then this is Vatapatra saying. Yeah. So when the whole universe is getting drowned away, right? So Krishna is a small boy, right? So he is actually floating on a leaf, and then he is sucking the nectar of his feet. So, but what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. He says that what is the need to have these all detailed knowledge? So, with a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support the entire universe. So, this is actually the purport, yeah, wherein Prabhupada ends this chapter. Yeah. So here the important thing is asamurdhava, which means that no one is superior to him and that no one is equal to him. Yeah? So, and here if you see, right, the Supreme Lord is represented throughout the entire material universes by entering into all things as super soul. The Lord here tells Arjuna that there is no point in understanding how things exist in separate opulences and grandeur. He should know that all things are existing due to Krishna centering them into them as super soul. Okay. So from Brahma, the most gigantic entity, on down to the smallest ant, all are existing because the Lord has entered each and all as and is sustaining them. So this is the gist, yeah. So and so here the Lord's greatness is being discussed, yeah. So and again, the Lord is not say equal to the others, right? So other devatas. So he is the supreme. So that's what is been mentioned here. And the Lord is pervading by expansion of his partial representation, the super soul. Yeah. So devotional service. Yeah. So here pure devotees therefore concentrated their minds. Yeah, on Krishna consciousness in full devotional service. Therefore, they are always situated in transcendental position. The devotional service and worship of Krishna are very clearly indicated in chapter in verse 8 through 11. Okay, so this is Chatur Shloki. Yeah? That is the way of pure devotional service. Right? How can how one can attain the highest devotional perfection of association with Supreme Personality of Godhead has thoroughly been explained in this chapter. Okay, so this is how we can connect to the Lord. Yeah. So the four slokas, the Chatur Slokis are about the devotional service. Hope I am audible, right? Sorry, I didn't check. Mataji, I am audible.
Yes, Prabhuji, you are audible. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so at the end, right, this chapter ends as from Lord Krishna's potent energy, even the powerful sun gets its power, and by Krishna's partial expansion, the whole world is maintained. Yeah? Therefore, Lord Krishna is worshipable. So the same thing is in the form of a tabular format. Yeah. So conclusion of 10th chapter, right? So this is from Krishna's potent energy, even the sun gets its powers. We just read in devotional service is nothing but Chaturshloki. Yeah? And chapter 10 explains how to attain the highest devotional perfection of association with the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So this is how we can associate with the representation of the Lord. Yeah. And explains how to concentrate mind in Krishna consciousness and full devotional service by hearing about different opulences, yeah, expansions of Krishna's energy. So that is how we can actually learn. Okay. Yeah. So I think in this in today's section it was more of opulences only. So there is nothing to actually brief you about all those things because these are all simple, right? And then self-explanatory. The only thing was the first sections wherein say Arjuna actually confirming and then say started glorifying the Lord, right? I think this section was something which we could spend time on, and then rest of all is like information only which we should know in, right? So we should gather on. Yeah. So all this information is there in the purport. So if you read, it's an easy read through, so which you can go through. Yeah, yeah, and yeah. So this is the one. So today we'll end up. So this is a short class wherein we don't have much to discuss in this purports. Yeah, so because these are straightforward purports. Yeah, yeah, and then I think yesterday there was a discussion about. I'm not sure how many of you have seen. This let me actually bring it up. I'll show you. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur's daily routine. Did anyone see? So what? How does it look like? So I'll bring you. Hold on. So yesterday somebody asked, right? So like we are in this material world. How do we manage things and all, right? So there is a
Yes,
chat.
Prabhuji, I had asked this
Yeah,
question.
I'll actually bring it. 1 minute.
Prabhuji,
Hmm.
yeah,
Good.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Meanwhile, you answer the previous question. Sir. Prabhuji, I wanted to understand this opulences.
Hmm.
So, is this the event where uh, Krishna reveals his like the Virat Rupa? This is the same event, right? Where he reveals his
Next.
Virat Rupa.
So this was all impersonal, right? So like not impersonal. So this was all material things, right? So he showcased his representation in material creations, right? So like the mountains. If you see the mountains, or if you see the animals, aquatics, or it was all in other species and other creation, right? So the Vishwarupa is his he'll showcase his own opulence. So the power of the Lord, right? So we saw now these are all representation, right? So and then he'll assimilate all these things in his own uh, feature. Yeah. So that would be Vishwarupa. In 11th chapter, he'll showcase all these things, right? So all these devatas and all, right? So everyone will be part of his body only, right? So then he'll showcase his power. So that's tomorrow, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhuji, but then Arjuna when already said, told Krishna like he has like he has understood Krishna and he wants to listened to his glories, and he has understood like Krishna is a supreme. Then Prabhuji, what what was what came up like Krishna had to show him show Arjuna his Virat Rupa.
So that
Then
we'll
like
get to know tomorrow. Yeah.
okay,
Just not tomorrow, sorry, so next week.
next week.
Yeah. So he'll actually tell that reason also. So we'll go through that reason also. So why Arjuna wanted that Vishwarupa. Yeah. So we'll get to know that also. See, this is Bhakti Vinod Thakur's daily regime. Yeah. So this is how he used to do. So he was an magistrate during the British time. Yeah. So which is one of the highest posts during that time by an Indian. Okay. So see his regime. So he used to only sleep for 2 hours. Yeah. So don't imitate this. Yeah. So we can't. And then he used to write from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Okay. So night. So he used to spend for writing, and then he used to rest for 4:30. Chant japa till 7. Correspondence, writing letters, study shastras until 9:30. Eat prasadam, go to court duties, refresh at home, court duties, translate Sanskrit Shastra to Bengali, and prasadam. And then this is his life cycle. Yeah. So this is just how he used to balance at then at that time, right? So it's very hard actually to live a life like that. Yeah. So because he's an exalted devotee, so he can do these all things, but we can't imitate these things. But yes, this is how their regime used to look in. Even if you look of Srila Prabhupada also, right? He used to sleep for only 2 hours, right? Even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami, so he also used to sleep for 2 hours. And then all are learned scholars, yeah. So even on so at the time of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, right? He used to publish books and then he used to send those copies to the foreign universities, right? So he used to send all spiritual books. He used to print and he used to send them. At those in those days, he used to send his writings to other universities in foreign. Yeah. Similarly, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, right? So he had so many dailies, so many books, and so he was also a great scholar. Yeah, and the next Prabhupada, so wherein he also gave us so much of literature, right? So that's how we can take little bit inspiration from them. Yeah. So anyhow, so we can't actually imitate them. If you have marked, if you're not marked the attendance, you can mark it. Yeah. Okay. We'll wind up today's session if there is nothing. So next week we'll see Vishwarupa. Yeah. So let me see if we can cover Vishwarupa in one session. I'll let you know because in there also, right? So it is more of description of the Virat Purusha. So let me see if I can condense everything in one class and then we can finish it off. That's okay. If not, then we'll split it into two. So yeah, so I'll have to see through if I can condense it into one class. We'll see. So next class, if it happens, then we'll cover in one class only. So maybe I'll take 10 more minutes or so, and then we'll finish it off 11th chapter. If time doesn't permit, and then if you're not able to do, then the whole weekend will spend with 11th chapter, and then we'll move on. Okay. Okay. We'll wind up today's class. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. हरे कृष्ण.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.